So where's the actual? Let me see. If we go to, it's recording right now, by the way.
Okay.
You can hit pause and recording if you want.
I don't care. I mean, I will, but.
All right, guys, how you guys doing tonight? So for those of you that have already logged on, I know there's still going to be more that are joining. The purpose of this meeting we're doing is obviously for the issues that we've been having in the Palisades regarding the juvenile activity. Obviously, I have been aware of it for quite a while, and as well the community. It's kind of just we'll say inflagrated quite a bit within the last couple of weeks based on like social media posts and everything else. So this meeting is the purpose of this meeting is kind of to either dispel any rumors that are going out there, third-hand party information, people kind of doing their own investigating, and people sending out different messaging. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands our role as LAPD, what we're doing, what we've been doing, and what we're allowed to do. And then also just kind of fill in the gaps on some of the other missing information of regarding the schools and so on. So before we get started though, I'm going to introduce my our captain, Captain Gabaldon. He's our area commanding captain for the whole area. So he's been aware of what's been going on. I meet with him weekly, updating him on the issues. So I'll just let him say a couple words and then we'll get started with some of the questions that were already submitted. All right, Captain.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for taking the time to meet with us via Zoom here. I'm Captain Rich Gabaldon. I'm the area captain here at West LA. I've been here since July of last year. Some of you guys I've had the pleasure of meeting in person. Some of you guys I've seen on Zoom, and some of you, this might be the first time you're hearing from me. So I just wanted to introduce myself. And I want to thank you guys, especially the Pacific Palisades community, for your continued support of the police department. No other area we are fortunate enough to have such great support for the police. Understand the kind of limitations we have on some of the resources and things we can do, but you guys are always out there for us, helping us out and being our partners out there. So thank you. Tonight, we're going to hopefully talk about some of the issues that are going on in the Palisades, talk about some of the resources we put in to try to deal with these issues, and also try to come up with a plan that we think that can help us moving forward with some of the issues that they're having around the park and around the Pacific Palisades area. We're fortunate enough to have not only our senior lead officer, Brian Espin, here tonight, but also our community resource sergeant, Scott Alpert, who is here with us. And our juvenile detective, Justin Malcott, is also on. And he's basically our divisional department expert when it comes to juvenile crimes and how they get prosecuted and what we need to make successful prosecution. So the plan is we're gonna go through some of the questions you have, and we will make time to take some questions at the end. So I don't want you to think that your voices won't be heard. We're fortunate also to have someone on our call tonight. That's Councilwoman Tracy Park, who represents you and who's a big integral part of our division here at West LA Division. We're fortunate to have someone that is so pro-police, really backs what we're doing out there and understands the issues that we're having as a department as a whole and really supports us. So great partner, a great leader. And I'm gonna give her some time about, as well, actually, she's the boss, so she can take as much time as she wants. But we'll give her some time to make some comments and to talk to you guys a little bit about what's going on in the community and maybe some of the issues that she's seeing that she can help us out with. So Tracy, if you're on, we're gonna switch you on.
I am here, Cap. Thank you so much, Officer Espin. It's so great to see you. We appreciate you all. And I really want to thank all of the community members for showing up this evening. And I want to just really highlight and acknowledge the reason we are having this meeting at all is because of the active community engagement that we see every day out of our officers at West LA Division. And so I just want to thank you for that. And while I am not the host of tonight's meeting, I am so glad that I was invited to participate. We've had a lot of outreach in my office over the last few weeks about issues related to juveniles in the park, and we are fully engaged in and supportive of any options and partnerships that we can offer to help resolve the issue. I wanted to mention, I think we have some individuals from LA Unified on as well in case there are questions that may be appropriate for them to answer. I'm here to listen, happy to chime in as needed. Wanted to let you know that our Pacific Palisades field deputy, Michael Amster, is also in the Zoom this evening. All of our contact information, of course, is on our CD11 website, which is cd11.lacity.org. I think you can Google it. It will come right up. I would really encourage folks, if you haven't already, please sign up for my weekly newsletter. You could do that at the CD11 website. I put that out once a week. It's a really good way to stay in touch and to follow along with the things that I'm working on, especially public safety related at City Hall. I think you all know that public safety is a top of mind issue for our entire district. It certainly is for me as your council member. I have been working very closely with LAPD to ensure that they are getting the funding and resources and staffing that they need. We're very, very proud of the work that they have done on the retail theft with the task force. We are very tuned into what's going on with residential burglaries. Over just the last couple of weeks, I have worked with LAPD and moved forward in council, not only funding for, but expansion of real-time crime centers, so that those are equally distributed across council districts and our police divisions as well. And so we have a lot of challenges as a community, but we appreciate the engagement and the cooperation, and especially the hard work of our police officers every single day. They are out there doing what they can with the limited resources that they have. And so we are just incredibly grateful to all of them. And with respect to the specific issues that we're here to talk about tonight, my team and I are here to listen and to help and engage and do what we can to hopefully get these issues resolved. So thank you again for the invitation to be here, and I'm going to kick it back over to our friends at LAPD. Thanks.
All
right.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman. I appreciate you being on the call. So I'm going to turn it over to our Senior Lead Officer, Brian Espin. He's going to go through some of the questions that you have, and some of the issues that we've been dealing with, and I'll let him start.
Okay, so basically, I'm just gonna, a lot of the questions that everybody kind of submitted were all very similar in nature. And so I condensed a lot of it into just a few. A lot of the questions are relevant to us LAPD. If we're aware of all the incidents that have occurred in the Palisades regarding these juveniles, how come we haven't done any enforcement, arrested, cited, and so on. So the way it works for us, and I do appreciate everybody emailing me the videos and pictures that they have of the incidents that are occurring. In order for us to do any kind of investigation or an enforcement on top of that, we need an actual police report. So we need a documented crime report with an incident number, a DR number, we call a report number, and then that gets submitted to our detectives, and then detectives look at it and they determine the validity of the statements or what occurred, or the synopsis of how the officers wrote the report. So a lot of the stuff that the chatter that I've been hearing is, how come we're not doing anything? As of yet, we've only had 3 actual police reports from last year till current of incidents involving the juvenile activity. The fireworks, that's kind of a little bit separate because even though we are able to investigate it with the report, we can't, in the videos and everything that's been submitted, it's extremely difficult and you can't really tell which individual or kid is lighting the firework. So there are groups in the park during the evening, and then you'll see the video, and then you'll see looks like a little smoke grenade get thrown in the middle of the park somewhere, whether it's in the basketball courts or the playground, and then you'll see the big firework explosion like you see at 4th of July. Those videos are helping me because I'm able to kind of show the pattern, but we can't do real enforcement because we can't identify the individual kid who's actually lighting the firework, because that's the person that we would, in a way, that's who would we either issue a citation or a physical arrest and so on. So I just want to clear that up, that we are aware of it, but unless we have an actual crime report specifically for the battery, the fights that have been occurring from our victims, there's little to no enforcement that we can do. Recently, we did get a person kind of come forward, and we do have a police report, and we were able to actually act on that. So we were able to issue some citations, which is technically a form of arrest, but because they're juveniles, it's a citation and release to the parents or the custody of the school at that time. So we did do something, but we need people or kids that are involved in getting beat up by this group of kids. If we have a crime report, then we can act on it, okay? So just to clarify, we need police reports in order for us to do any kind of enforcement or do any kind of investigation. And then as of now, we've only have 3 that have involved the juvenile activity or kids fighting in the Palisades. And then do we share information with the schools, school PD, and the surrounding agencies? Yes, we do. So I have met with Palisades High School. I have reached out to Paul Revere. I've gone over there a few times. I don't know if you guys remember, but back in November of last year, I sent out we call it a badge note, but basically a letter. I pushed it out to all the schools and had them disseminate that to all the parents, letting them know of the activity and the problems that we were having back then, even in November, the problems that we were having in the Palisades area. So yes, we do a lot of communication. I meet with Palisades High, their school staff on a weekly basis, talk to them on a weekly basis regarding the issues. So yes, there is a lot of communication. In regards to other law enforcement agencies, I know somebody asked, do we communicate with Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, and I think LA County Sheriff's Malibu? Generally for this kind of incident, no, we do not, because it doesn't necessarily affect them. Even if they might have similar activity with kids, we can't investigate the kids in another jurisdiction, in Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, or in Malibu. But if there was a major significant incident, then yes, we would, like a homicide or a serial rapist, stuff like that. That kind of stuff. We do information share it quite often. But stuff like this, where it's kind of bullies in the neighborhood, we do not share information or contact them to let them know, because it doesn't really affect them. It's just us in the Palisades. Even though these kids might live in the area, outside of the Palisades, living in those other areas, they can't do anything about it either, because they don't. The incident didn't occur in their jurisdiction. Kids and parents are scared of retaliation. So I understand and agree that it is traumatic for the kids, and I understand that it is a scary situation for all involved. The parents worried about kind of retaliation. That's difficult because I can't force a victim. We can't force a victim to say, oh, you need to make this police report, even if there's a fear of retaliation. That's up to the individual person, how comfortable they feel coming forward and being able to document the incident and how it occurred. There are steps though, if you are a victim of a crime, there are steps that if there is any kind of form of retaliation, bullying or anything related to that, then we now take the next step up. You get restraining order. And then we file an additional police report for violating the restraining order or harassing messages or phone calls based on the nature of what it is. So there are steps that we can take, but it's more documentation. And then after all that documentation is done, then the investigation from the detective end, and then they can bring all the information they have to the city attorney's office and present it what they call for filing. I'll let Detective Malcott discuss a little bit more of that, the investigative side, and how when they get a report, how it gets submitted to the CA or DA's office, and they will look at it and say, yes, we can file and prosecute, or no, there's not enough, or we're not going to, based on the body of the report or what the incident, what entails in the incident. Suggest anything that community members can do to address the issue of behavior in juvenile in our community. I've said this before, and I know sometimes it's gotten taken out of context, so I just want to clarify. Us in the Palisades, we're very vigilant already. I can tell you right now by the emails and all the information I'm getting from everybody, I get the most information for my area than a lot of the other senior lead officers get in their area. So we are a very vigilant community in the Palisades. If kids are acting out, I've mentioned before, call them on it, but don't take it to the point where you're going to cause or have some sort of altercation. So acknowledging kids and their behavior versus actually confronting them and trying to start a fight with them. I know some people have, with the kids in the neighborhood, have gotten out of their cars and confronted these kids and walked up to the kids trying to, I wouldn't say trying to start a fight, but almost instigating some sort of a reaction where it could have led to an actual physical altercation. That's what I don't want. That's what we're trying to avoid. But acknowledging the kids' behavior. So if the kids are out doing something, you can call them on and say, hey, knock it off. And if the kids start chipping back at you, then just leave it alone. You don't have to go and confront them. And then that's when you get, as in our terms, we call it contempt of caught, where now you're starting to take it personally, and now you want to go and show off, or not show off, but show as the rooster, to show off the feathers. So we don't want that. I don't want the altercations. I don't want fights between kids and adults. I don't want fights between kids and kids. But definitely be vigilant. And if you see the kids, you can call them out on it, but don't walk up to the kid and approach them to prove your point, if that makes any sense. So I just want to clear that up. You can call them out on it, but don't necessarily confront them physically to the point where it can cause an altercation, because that's what we do not want. My theory is, now it's just a theory, my theory is that if these kids are being noticed and seen by the community and constantly being watched, my theory is that eventually they'll like, hey, okay, maybe we need to go somewhere else or mellow out. Has it worked? I don't know, because I've heard of a lot of residents calling out kids, and the kids are still yelling back and just being super disrespectful to the point where they're trying to incite a physical altercation. So you just got to make sure you don't get baited into that. Communication is key though with other parents. I was out this last weekend and the weekend before. A lot of the kids in the neighborhood in the Palisades that are there on the weekends and the evenings don't really live in the Palisades. They're from neighboring areas, Brentwood, Bel Air, Santa Monica, even Culver City. But a lot of them do go to school in the Palisades. So they tend to just kind of hang out or stay in the neighborhood and hang out with their friends. So the communication with other parents, if you have a child that's in one of the schools and they have friends and you are in touch with these other parents, have conversations with these other parents to bring up the issue of, hey, do you know what's going on in the neighborhood? All the kids are being rude and disrespectful, using fireworks, riding these electric motorcycles. It's becoming problematic. Just have conversations, because maybe a lot of it is just awareness, and the other parents may not really know what's going on. So I encourage a conversation with your kid as well as other parents that you may know that have kids in the school or friends of. So that is something that I think the community can help out a lot in, is just spreading the message even more outside of what I can do. One of the questions, issues at CVS, Starbucks, basically the shoplifting and destruction of merchandise and loitering and so on. So I've had several meetings with management from CVS and management from Starbucks regarding the kids and the behavior there. CVS, it was successful for a little while, but they couldn't sustain the monitoring with the staff they had. So what I proposed to them, because we've done it in other areas of the city, with where kids have been going in and stealing stuff. What I told CBS to do is during the high volume days, which is usually on a Thursday or Friday after school, or whenever there's any kind of major sports games happening at Pali High or in the surrounding schools, have a staff member at the front door and limit how many kids are allowed in the store at any given time, and their backpacks have to stay at the front door. So they did that for a little while, limited like 3 to 4 kids at a time, and then once those kids would get out, then the next 3 or 4 kids would go in. That did help, but after talking with management, when they stopped doing it, I asked them, hey, what happened? Why'd they stop? They said they couldn't, based on their staffing and money, they couldn't have somebody stand at the door all the time when the high volume hours, we'll say. So they just couldn't sustain that. But it was something that did work for a little while, so I have encouraged them to do it. I've also encouraged them to have a policy like, if you're a minor, you're not allowed to come into the store unless you're with a parent. But obviously corporate doesn't want to do that. So it's a private business, so I can't dictate how they should or what they should do to better protect themselves, but it's what they can do. So it's up to corporate and their business how they want to conduct. So they did it for a little while. It worked. In my opinion, it worked, but they weren't able to sustain that with having somebody at the front door all the time. But that is something that I did meet with CBS about, as well as documenting if there are people stealing on a reoccurring basis, because they do have security cameras where if we are able to capture and identify the kids that are stealing, now if we have a police report, now we can do an investigation and do some follow-ups on it. Same thing with Starbucks. I met with the management at Starbucks and they changed a lot of how they do things in their store. And I've been up there and it's helped. They don't allow the kids to just kind of loiter and hang out inside anymore. They kind of tell them they have to, once they get their food or drink, they have to go outside. They can't just hang out inside. They put like a delineator, a rope, almost like a velvet rope, that kind of blocks off the area where you can get your drinks when they call out names, because one of the issues is kids were just randomly grabbing drinks that weren't theirs when somebody would place an order. So they put a kind of like a little barrier there to keep the majority of the people from congregating in that spot. So that did help. So I have been in touch with a lot of the local businesses in regards to the juvenile activity that at least have reached out to me, or at least that I've been aware of. Sorry if I'm going fast, guys, but I'm just trying to cover the majority of the questions that everybody submitted. So I'm hoping to answer the majority of it before we get to the end of the kind of free questions. Let's see. A lot of people are asking, and specifically like what are my hours? What days am I working? As a senior lead, our position, we're the kind of the community liaison person. So my hours every week are different. I don't work a regular Monday 9 to 5 schedule. I work every week, different days, different hours based on whatever community meetings we have, whatever projects I'm working on, or whatever training we get assigned. So every week is a completely different animal for my schedule. So the last couple weekends I've been working late at night, especially on Fridays, to address the juvenile issue. So my schedule is all over the place. That was one of the questions that brought up. Somebody brought up the garden cafe. So I know a lot of the kids hang out at the Palisades Garden Cafe, and many times I've actually gone there. The garden cafe, the staff there, they've never brought up any issues. I asked them, hey, everything good? Any issues with the kids? Are they problematic? And they said, no, they're just loud and annoying sometimes, but not necessarily problematic. Not where they're to the point where they're having to get kicked out or anything. And they did mention the garden cafe. They did say if it does become problematic with certain individuals, they do throw them out. They ask them to leave and get out. So, but Palisades Garden Cafe hasn't brought up anything with me, at least, other than just the kids kind of just being boisterous after school when they're there. I kind of already answered this. If there's a persistent group of teens reported again and again by the community, how come we're not doing anything to enforce? Like I said, if we have a police report, then we can act and do some enforcement and do follow-ups. If it's just kids being a nuisance in the neighborhood and being bullies, and if they're fighting, let me know, because I do want to kind of keep the pattern of the trend of what's happening and when. But as far as enforcement, we try to get up there as much as we can during those times and be visible. But like anything, like we're all driving down the street and we see a police car, we're not going to make that illegal U-turn. We're not going to drive excessively fast. These kids are smart enough to know the same thing. They're not going to do anything when the police car is there. It's when the police car leaves is when they start acting out. And then by the time we come circle back around, the event is already over and all the parties involved have already left. So it's really difficult to catch some of the activity when it's happening because they're smart enough to know not to do it when there's a police car right there at that time. Because we are now going back to some of the stuff that we've done. So our regular patrol unit, A1, assigned to the Palisades, they're the park, the beach, PCH along Sunset, the Village Green, CVS, all those are my hotspot locations. So all of our patrol officers know that when they're not handling a radio call and they have free time to basically like sharks, circle those areas to try to be as much of a presence as possible. Us being here in West LA with the amount of staffing we have, it is extremely difficult to have a patrol unit sit in those areas 24/7. We just can't do that. We don't have the staffing and the patrol officers don't have the time. Their priority is handling the calls for service first. So whenever somebody calls the police, whether it's a 911 or non-emergency, it gets assigned to all the patrol units in the area. The Palisades car is the last car to get pulled from the area to go handle a radio call. Our dispatchers know it and our watch commander here knows it. But being where we are in West LA, we're a huge area and we have a lot of calls, the volume of calls is really high. A1 is getting pulled quite often to handle radio calls throughout West LA. So when they are available, they do patrol those areas, those high, I call them my high target areas. But realistically, they're always getting pulled to handle the radio calls to help out the other officers in West LA, just because the amount of call load that we have, they're extremely busy. Let's see, curfew. So yes, there is curfew. Just like anything, like a traffic violation or an infraction, it's to the discretion of an officer. So yes, there is curfew. 10 o'clock at night is curfew for all over. I think it's the state of California, but it's definitely here for the city. We use it as a tool to enforce certain things when we need to. So recently, with all the juvenile activity, have we been using it as a tool? Yes, we have. We've done it in the Palisades, but like other areas, they don't necessarily use that tool of curfew violation in other parts. But we've been doing it as much as we can in the Palisades. Last week, we cited a few individuals for the curfew violation who happened to not live in the Palisades, they live outside of the Palisades. But yes, we do curfew violation, and like this last weekend, we were out driving around at 10 o'clock. There was a few kids that were still out and about, and those kids did get curfew citations. Somebody did email me just a while ago the difference in our, I guess, police jargon. Citation is basically a ticket, just like you would in driving a vehicle and you make a right-hand turn from the wrong lane. It's an infraction ticket. So that's a citation. So when we issue the curfew violation, that's a citation. It's a ticket that the juveniles get. Same thing with recently the last enforcement we did for the fighting. Those juveniles received a citation, a ticket for the fighting. It's not a physical arrest where we take them and book them into jail, fingerprint, and so on. It's a cite and release is what we call it, a cite and release, either to the parent or to, at that time it was the school, somebody to an adult or somebody older that can take charge of the child, which was the school at that time. Let's see. I already talked about what we do with Pali High and Paul Revere, just constant communication. They are aware of some of the problematic juveniles. One thing that I did reach out to Pali High, they did give me a statement because one of the big questions in the community as well as came to me. If we know who these kids are and what they're doing in the neighborhood, how come the schools are not expelling or suspending the kids? Great question, but from my understanding, and I don't want to read the whole statement because it takes a while, but from my understanding, based on reading it in short, if it happens outside of school grounds, the school does not get involved. It's an outside incident. Same thing with school PD. If the kids, the way it's worded is kids going to school and leaving school. So I'm assuming for the first half hour, 45 minutes in the morning when they're going to school, if they're on a bus, And same thing after school, when they're 30 to 45 minutes after school, when they're on their way home or on a bus going home, then the school is not responsible, but they do have some sort of recourse that they can use because it's within that time frame of going to school and from school. A lot of these incidents that kind of we've been discussing happen outside of school, and it's not within like 30 minutes after school. It's usually an hour or two outside of that time frame of when school lets out. Some incidents, not all. But like I said, these are incidents that need to be documented either with school police or with us with LAPD. If it happens on school grounds, school police is the agency or the entity that handles that investigation and takes the report. If it's outside of school grounds, outside of that window of going to school and going to school and leaving school, then it falls under LAPD purview. As we would take the investigation and handle the incident. So in a sense, in order for the school to really get involved, it needs to happen on school in order for them to have any kind of consequence. But I will read something really quick that the school sent to me. As part of our ongoing efforts to ensure clarity and transparency in our discipline procedure, we want to address the certain aspects regarding the jurisdiction, the school, which I just did, going inside and outside of school. It's important to understand that while schools are responsible for ensuring student safety to and from school, our jurisdiction over incidents occurring outside of school-sponsored activities and beyond direct route is limited. When addressing incidents such as student fights or other disciplinary matters, we adhere to a progressive discipline approach that considers the severity and context of each situation. While suspension or expulsion may be considered in certain cases, it is not a one-size-fits-all response. Instead, we carefully assess each incident to determine the most appropriate action. Furthermore, we want to emphasize our commitment to fairness and equity in our disciplinary process. We utilize restorative justice practices to ensure that all students are treated fairly and that accountability, understanding, and reconciliation principles guide disciplinary actions. Restorative justice process allow us to address the harm caused by misconduct while promoting healing and restoring relationships within our school community. It's important to note that our school has implemented suspension and recommended expulsion when necessary. However, these decisions are never taken lightly and are always made with careful consideration and circumstances involved. So basically, the way the school is, they look at each incident when it happens and they evaluate the totality of the incident. And they will, I'm sure, just like we do, they have their own investigation. They talk to their peers, their other staff members, discipline, dean of discipline, principal, everybody else. And they determine what would be, in a sense, the best course of action for whatever incident that is being brought to them. So that's regarding the school. Schools will take into account anything that happens on campus, but anything that happens off campus, they will not get it. They will not get involved in, or I want to say get involved in. There's no consequences through the school that they would be involved in. They still reach out to the students, which they have actually. I've talked to Adam. Hopefully I'm saying it the right way. Adam Lycia. That guy is awesome. He's the dean of discipline at Pali High. He knows a lot of the individuals. He knows a lot of the incidents that have taken place outside. I meet with him quite often. He's awesome. He has met with the kids individually. He's met with the parents. Even though there's not a lot of consequences that he can kind of push on with the juveniles and the parents, he has definitely put in a lot of work to reach out to the parents and kids involved to let them know what's going on and the process of what's happening and how much attention that is drawn from the community. So and I don't know, I think Adam might be on the call, but thank you very much because you have been a huge asset for me to help me out as well as the community, even though they don't really know the behind the scenes stuff that you've been doing. So shout out to Pali High because they have done quite a bit and on the backside and what limited resources they have and what limited what they're allowed to do. Okay. Let's go with now e-bikes and electric motorcycles and the fireworks. So I have met, I've been on numerous meetings with the Palisades Community Council. I've been on numerous meetings with, or some of the park staff at Pali Rec Center. Obviously, we know that the issues of kids lighting fireworks on the weekends is nearly every weekend problematic. The times that I've been out there on the weekends, like I said, the kids are not dumb. When they see the police cars driving around, they don't do anything. It's when the police cars are there or when the police cars are gone is when they act out. We have done a few undercover operations where we put undercover officers in the park and in the parking lot to try to identify these kids that are lighting the fireworks. Each time that our undercover officers were there, nothing happened. They did observe the kids' erratic behavior, and they've let me know how when they were kids they never did any of the stuff they're doing now, but it wasn't criminal in nature, so there wasn't anything we could do about it. Just how crazy it was. But we do know that there are kids that are doing it. The problem that we have with trying to catch the fireworks or the kids with the fireworks is the videos. Like I said, the videos and pictures that I've seen. We can't identify the individual person who's lighting the firework. We can see groups of kids, but they could just be groups of kids all hanging out, mixed up in the wrong group at the wrong time, or they're all part of it, but we can't get every single kid and be like, oh, see this kid standing over here on the side that's running away? We want to give them a ticket. We can't. Just not legally allowed to do that. So I'm kind of pushed or voiced my concern and my opinion with the Palisades Community Council as well as the park staff, the importance of trying to get cameras, really good high definition cameras in the park. So I can identify the one kid that's lighting that firework. If I can get a picture of the kid with a face, whether it's him coming in and out of the park, it may not be of the kid lighting the firework at the time, but it might be of him walking into the park earlier and oh, that's the same kid. If I can identify that one individual, now I have something that I can work with and work on. But it's very difficult with the cameras and the videos that have been sent. They're grainy and it's very difficult to identify, even though they're helpful because at least we know what's happening, and it does help me still. Regardless, I need to be able to identify. So cameras in the park are huge. I would be able to monitor it, and then other officers, if something's happening, we might be able to get in and manipulate the camera. The huge benefit. Is it a deterrence? It might be, for sure. But ultimately, it's that backside investigating that we can look and try to identify who these people are. I'm sure you've all heard me do a lot of the community meetings and neighborhood watch meetings. If you have cameras and you live near the park, have a camera angled out towards the street or the sidewalk, because we may, if your neighbor's house gets broken into, let's say now we're on a different topic a little bit, but say your neighbor's house gets broken into, they're probably going to be covered up with a hoodie and a mask. You're not going to be able to see who they are. But it's that house next door, the couple houses next door, they're not going to have the hoodie on. They're going to be getting in and out of a car. They're going to be walking down the street. And that's where we're able to identify some of these players involved. So cameras are huge. I know a lot of residents, they are talking about working with Flock, I believe, to get cameras. They are a benefit. They really, really are. They help us try to identify individuals, cars. I know now with Flock, we're able to identify vehicles that have been stolen in the area or outside the area, driving through the area. We're able to get, we'll say, notifications when these cars are driving around the area. So they are a huge benefit. So I'm a big proponent of having cameras in the park. I know some people are kind of reluctant on it, but from my perspective, it's going to help me and the detectives to try to mitigate some of the issues. The electric bikes. There's different styles that are going out there. I know there's an electric bike service company right there on Sunset in the Palisades, I believe. I've talked to the owner a couple times through email, and actually went out there months and months ago talking about something else unrelated, but it's at least we know he's there and he's helpful. E-bikes. There's 3 different classifications for e-bikes. There's class 1, 2, and 3. Ultimately, class 3 is any pedal assisted bike that goes 28, only it can go up to 28 miles an hour. And you have to be 16 or older to ride it. You have to have a helmet, and anything above that, you need a M1, a motorcycle license. So a lot of these e-bikes, and I have friends that have them too. A lot of these e-bikes, they're very easy to manipulate, meaning it's a little chip, like a computer chip that's in these bikes. You can cut a single wire, you can take out the chip and they say like a member back in the day when we tried to get free cable, you get a broken stick for the fire sticks. Same thing, you can manipulate and take off the governors on these bikes. So these bikes do go faster than 28 miles an hour. I mean, I've seen them. The problem that we come with, they're very difficult to enforce because they are allowed, certain ones are, they are allowed on the streets as if they're a regular bike. And then there are certain bikes that are not allowed on city streets. They're only allowed in off-road areas only, like BLM land, out in the desert, stuff like that. There's a few of the bikes that have been going around in the neighborhood that I've tried to stop. Other officers have stopped, and just recently, last weekend, we had our motorcycle police officers out in the area, and tried to stop these bikes. They take off; they don't stop. Our policy is we're not going to get in a pursuit of an infraction. We only chase violent felonies or a crime of significance. These kids on these bikes, we're not going to go into pursuit. We're not going to chase them because one, we don't want the kids getting hurt because they're like this. For instance, this last weekend on Friday night, our motor officers tried to stop a couple of the bikes, and they took off straight across Sunset. I think they're around Monument or something. They went straight across Sunset on a red light and almost got hit by a car. And that's when our motor officers said, "This is not worth it. It's not worth the safety of the kid for them just riding around being a nuisance, and it's not safe for the officers as well." So I'm trying to work with our undercover officers to try to figure out a way where we can catch them without using the police cars, because they'll run from the police cars, but our undercover officers on foot, they may not run from because they don't know who they are. So that's one of my plans that I'm going to try to put in place in the near future, is try to figure out a different way to catch these guys on the electric bikes. Same thing with the fireworks. We have not seen or have evidence other than the electric bikes being in the area when the fireworks have gone off. We can't say these kids on the electric bikes are the ones lighting the fireworks in the park for certain. There was an incident where there were kids on one of these electric bikes throwing the fireworks from their bike one day down, I think it was Alma Real or something like that. So that was kind of documented with an email with me. So I do know it is a possibility, but the fireworks that have been going off, the big ones in the park, we can't for sure say that these kids on the electric bikes are doing it all the time. Is it a possibility? For sure. But I can't pin it on them unless I have hard proof of I see a guy on an electric bike, light a firework and throw it. So that's with the electric motorcycles and the electric bikes. They're extremely difficult because some are allowed, and I've seen kids riding around in the Palisades and all over the city on these electric bikes, and some of them are allowed and some of them are not, based on how they manipulate the chip and unlock it. So that is extremely difficult. But if we do see a violation, we do try to stop and do an enforcement. The problem is a lot of these guys on the electric bikes, they run, and it's not worth us chasing them and getting in an accident where somebody gets seriously injured because of an infraction. That's it for the questions. Now, I know my sergeant has been diligently over here typing on the chat, but I know there's probably some questions I may not have brought up. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to bring up Detective Malcott. He was going to talk about or at least what I wanted to talk about so that everybody's clear on it. Once we do get a police report, how it's investigated regarding juveniles, and if Detective Malcott, if you're on, if you can unmute him, yes. If you can also discuss diversion program, like what it entails, what it is, and how people either get into it, out of it, and how the whole filing process works, so everybody has an understanding, please.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. You guys hear me okay? Yes, can you hear me okay? Okay, so I just want to go over mainly the juvenile justice system for you guys as a whole. So I'm the juvenile coordinator at West LA, and my role is every juvenile arrest comes through me to see if we're abiding by all the laws and policies in regards to juveniles. And the juvenile justice system is entirely different than the adult system, and it's been like this forever. The adult system originally was designed for lack of a better term, punishment. The juvenile justice system is designed for rehabilitation, and it's always been that way. However, in the last few years, the way of getting to that goal has changed a little bit. And I'll give you some examples on how that works. I've seen a lot of questions in the chat about juvenile diversion, and that has been a big program that has kicked off in the last few years. Last week, I met with the County Department of Juvenile Diversion Program, which is a new county entity that oversees this entire program. I met with the Juvenile Probation Department to discuss what's going on in our juvenile halls when it comes to detaining these juveniles. Just today, I met with our juvenile district attorney's office to discuss their filing policies and guidelines. And the system is completely geared towards avoiding placing juveniles into the justice system at this time. And what I mean by that is at this moment, the juveniles that are detained in custody in a facility are the most serious of serious offenders. And I'll give you the example of, and you can Google this, the penal code section 707B of the penal code. And these are the ones these are the only ones at this time that are actually detained in custody. Murderers, arsonists, robbery, rape by force, sodomy by force, kidnapping for ransom, attempted murder, assault with a firearm. Things of that nature, the most serious of serious offenses, are the only juveniles who are actually locked up in custody at this time. So when we get a case involving a juvenile, we investigate it just like any other case. We have to have probable cause to make an arrest or a detention in these cases. And I'll give you an example of the video that was going around with juveniles fighting in the Palisades. So in that case, we need a victim of a crime, right? There's clearly a juvenile that was involved that was a victim of that. And we met with that juvenile and took the appropriate report. And then we have to decide what action can we now take in regards to that report. That incident is a misdemeanor. And no matter what action we would take in that, it would not result in an arrest or detention of anybody in that case. That's not an LAPD policy. Unfortunately, that is the juvenile justice system as a whole. So some of the things that could happen when we were talking about citations. So the LAPD can write a juvenile citation. That citation then goes to the county juvenile probation department, where they assess what to do with that citation, which is generally going to be a diversionary type program. The district attorney's office, who would review all arrests, whether it be misdemeanor, felony, citations, which would be misdemeanors in nature, they have a policy at this time. They do not file charges on misdemeanor crimes at all involving juveniles. So those citations do not go to the district attorney at this time. They're sent to diversion programs. If we in LAPD make an arrest and it's not one of those crimes that I mentioned, they are going to a diversion program. We give them a citation that's similar to a citation that them and their parent or guardian sign, that they're going to participate in this program. I've seen questions, how many times can they go through this program? It could be a bunch of times, to be honest with you. It depends on the offense. It depends on their history. And it's not just us. We can make an arrest on one of those serious crimes I described for you, and the district attorney's office can also decide to send them to a different diversion program. Let's say the district attorney goes forward with filing felony charges on them. The court can then decide to send them to another diversion program. So at this point, the justice system involving juveniles is entirely focused around rehabilitating this person, not keeping them in custody. So I just kind of wanted to paint that picture for you on how the process works and how the system works. And unfortunately, when it comes to these specific incidents involving these specific individuals, we can't answer a whole lot of them because unfortunately, all juvenile crime is inherently confidential. So I can't give you any specific details, unfortunately, in regards to any particular individual. But obviously, you know, it's our job as the police department to keep the community safe as best we can. So a lot of the questions I'm reading, you know, what do you do if you're a witness to something? You don't know if a crime report was taken. What do you do? That's why, and sorry, Officer Espin, but please send that information to Officer Espin, because what you don't know, maybe somebody did file a report and your eyewitness could be very important to that case, depending on what it is. So please feel free. If you don't know and you don't know who to talk to or reach out to, please feel free to email Officer Espin, because he does communicate with me and the appropriate detectives on who to give that information to and to find out if a report was made. And were there any specific other questions or anything else, Officer Espin, you'd like me to speak to? You guys are muted.
Sorry, no, sorry, we were trying to figure out the mute. No, that was it. I just wanted so everybody understands the process for what diversion is and how when we do enforcement that it's once we make the arrest or citation, it's now out of our hands and it goes to another entity for however they feel or what they deem necessary for what the crime is and so on, what the punishment which should be. No, that's about it. Thank you very much, Detective. Appreciate you coming on and explaining it.
Thank you, guys. And if I may just have one more quick second, every time I do a community meeting, I just want to reinforce and remind everybody how important all your local elections are, since we do have an election coming up. I'm a constituent of Miss Park myself, and I'm very grateful to have her as my councilwoman. So just please keep those things in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Detective. Okay, so we'll open it up. I have some names down already. Put your hand up if you do have a question. I know I have Councilwoman Tracy Parks. We'll go with you first, obviously. You get priority. And then Juan Vergosa's next. And then I think Kimberly Bloom. I'm writing them down so I stay in order. Sorry.
We'll just go with that.
Yeah, go for that now. So Trace, Councilwoman, you're yours.
Thanks, Brian. So, hey, I completely failed to mention at the top during my remarks that my team and I are actually working with RAP to get cameras installed at the park. Juan, our district director, is on, and I think he's in the queue next to speak. I will leave it to him to share the details of where we are in that process. But obviously, I am willing to do, whatever it takes to lobby for whatever additional resources may be necessary. And I am of the opinion that the cameras can be a really useful tool that can assist our partners at LAPD. And they also potentially have a deterrent effect as well. So I just want you guys to know we have been working with members of the community on that for a few weeks now, and we are in the process, and Rec and Parks knows that that is a priority for us. So Juan, if you don't mind, I will kick it to you. If I've missed any of the details on that, feel free to jump in and add to it. Thanks, guys.
I already have muted.
You're on.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Brian.
Juan, are you up and able? I think
he signed out.
Oh, I think Juan might have signed out. We don't see him on the screen. Oh wait, there he is. I see him now.
I got it.
All right, we're gonna unmute you right now, Juan. Sorry. There you go.
There
You're
we
unmuted.
go. I couldn't unmute. Sorry, everyone. Hello, everybody. My name is Juan Fregoso. I'm the district director for Councilwoman Park. And as she mentioned, we did meet with constituents a couple weeks ago to go over some of these security concerns. Obviously, Michael's been very in touch with our LAPD team in terms of what we can also assist in helping supplement in addressing some of these concerns. My understanding is that when the department first met with some of our constituents and residents here in the park, they were pitching a much bigger project in terms of much more infrastructure is needed for some of the security cameras. After the conversation and the meeting we had on site, I did relay to them that we wanted to see if we could explore something initially that could be done in a much shorter time period in terms of using existing infrastructure, mounting cameras on some of the infrastructure, both within the RAP buildings as well as us reaching out to the library to see if we can mount some on their property so that we can get additional cameras out there. It does take the department a little while to kind of go through this and kind of assess this new ask, but they are working on it. I personally met with them last week, a week and a half ago, to go over this specific request. I'm touching base with them again. I meet with them monthly, and this is, as the councilwoman said, one of the priorities that we have here specifically to this park. There are a few other items that have came up from the community, but again, in terms of safety, this is probably one of the top ones that we're working on for the park. So just know that that is something we are working with. As soon as we get more information and we get the report back from Rec and Parks as to what we could do on the existing infrastructure, we will work to see what we can do to kind of expedite the timeline to get those installed. And that's it right now. I think the councilwoman covered everything else on our end, and I'm here if anything else comes up. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Juan. Appreciate your help and support, especially Councilwoman Parks. Thank you guys for the support. It is extremely helpful for us. All right, I have Kimberly Bloom and then Karen Ridgely. So we'll unmute Kimberly now. There we go. Sorry. All right. Kimberly, you can unmute, I believe.
Okay, there I am. Hi, Brian. Thank you so much. So I have just this kind of random question. So I know some of the juveniles that have been causing the problems that you guys have been able to identify them. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. But you haven't been able to catch them in the act, correct? Correct. Or
Correct.
sometimes. Okay.
Yeah, good.
So I'm just curious, like, what is preventing you from maybe knocking on their parents' door one day, say, hey, just want you to be aware, we're kind of watching your kid and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's kind of like an old fashioned, tactic to say, hey, parent, you may not be aware, but we're aware of your kid. And I just wonder, if that just sort of in your face, we're watching your kid kind of a thing might be effective. I mean, had the police knocked on my door, if my kid was acting up and he did some acting up, I would have been happy to have known about it and maybe taken matters into my own hands a bit more. I don't know. So just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so I have done that to a couple of the juveniles, not all of the group. I know the school, Pali High, has definitely reached out to the individuals as well, if not a phone call to the parents. So that has been done. Should it be more reinforced? I agree. Yes, we probably do a better job of that. So that's something I will push to do again the next coming weeks.
Okay, thank you so much. And then I just want to remind everybody on this call that the Palisades Community Council meets every other Thursday night. And we talk about this stuff, and Brian is there on the call every single time. So if you guys want to be more informed, involved, and have a chance to be heard, join us. Thanks
Thank you,
so much.
Appreciate that. Yep. And shout out to the Palisades Community Council. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll have Karen Ridgely, and then I have Nina's iPhone, I think was another hand up. Correct. So Karen Ridgely, I think you're up.
Okay, Brian, thank you. Unfortunately, I did not come into the meeting until about 10 minutes ago. Will this be posted on the Palisades Community Council web for those of us who did not see the video, that we could see the whole thing?
We are recording it, so I can send out a link to watch the recording.
On the Palisades website or directly from you?
I can forward it to them, and then if they wish to put it on their website, they can. But usually what I'll do is, for purposes of this meeting, since it is involving the Palisades community, I will send it out like to my email list that I send out for the crime updates. So everyone who gets my crime update will get a link to this video.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Sure, no problem, Karen. Thank you. All right, next I have Nina's iPhone. I think that's Nina Maddock, I believe. You're still muted, hold on. Or I asked you to unmute. Okay, you can unmute, Nina.
Hi, Brian. Thank you very much for this meeting. A couple of things. First, I wanted to ask and bring this to Tracy's attention as well as Miriam's, that a number of years ago, I was involved with the late Paula Leonhauser, and we created a special fund through the LAPD Foundation to raise money for radar cameras for West LAPD to be able to deal with the ruthless riders. I'm assuming that we should be able to have some kind of either an LAPD or the Los Angeles Fire Department also has a similar foundation. I'm assuming the county should have a foundation through which we can create a fund where members of the community can donate to that fund and get a tax deduction to get cameras at the park. And that's already in place. I know that there was a woman that we dealt with at the LA Foundation who created that earmarked fund for us. So is that something that you can look into, or is that something that one of our community members can look into? For example, me, if you'd like. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that even if these kids are charged with misdemeanors, I know that there are certain consequences for misdemeanors that can be handed out. For example, we were involved in a political sign stealing incident a number of years ago. And that juvenile went to court in Santa Monica and was had their driver's license suspended for a year. So I'm assuming that that was a misdemeanor and that those kinds of consequences can be handed out. So can you answer those two things?
Sure. So actually, I will have my Sergeant Alpert. He will find out about the foundation, about donating specifically to West LA for cameras or the park. He has a contact for the foundation, so he'll look into that. You said that was a couple years ago, correct?
Yeah, that was probably in, I want to say 2015, 2016.
Okay, we'll look into that. And then as Detective Malkoff earlier, I don't know if you heard his little
I did.
So once we write the ticket, or once we make the arrest, it's out of LAPD's hands. It now goes to the CA's or DA's office, and then they are the ones that deem what the punishment or consequence would be. So as Detective Malcott stated earlier, the majority of juvenile crimes that are happening, if it's not a major violent felony, you will just get sent to diversion. And then when it gets sent to that diversion, which in a sense it's like probation, when it gets sent to diversion, they decide what the punishment or consequence would be. So we wouldn't be able to say, oh yeah, take the kid's driver's license away. They would, the courts for diversion would be the ones to instill whatever consequence or punishment that the kid receives.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Sure, no problem. Thank you much. I think there was another, and okay, let's go with
Palisades Patrol.
Palisades Patrol first, and then Eric B will be next.
Hey Brian, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, this is Andrew Higashi. I'm one of the patrol managers here with Gate Security. One of the questions I had is, have you, not that I've heard of anyway, and a lot of the times I hear from community members and our clients that are of the same complaints, and their concern is obviously when the kids see the police, they're running from you guys. They used to do the same thing with us. We're not the police, but what I found and what my team has found for the most part is trying to get down to their level and getting out in the community with them. We see them at the park oftentimes, throwing a baseball or a football, and building more of that relationship with them and interacting with them and understanding, stepping into their world and really bridging that gap between the law enforcement and our youth. I've talked to a lot of the kids, I've dealt with them, and just try to get them to understand, this is not okay in the community. And, all of our guys are fairly younger for the most part. They get along with them. And basically my main question here is, have you guys maybe gone out and tried that as far as talking to them, getting into their level, again, maybe playing a little football with them or something of that nature to really understand their world and realize that they don't have to, run every time, or, you can understand them, maybe get on a first name basis. As we've seen, that's helped a lot, not the most, but it's done something for these kids to essentially like the presence of a uniform and appreciate you and your job more often than just wreaking havoc in the community as they've been.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So yes, I have been out and usually try to talk to the kids, especially around the park area. And it's funny that the kids that have been running are the ones that obviously don't want to talk and don't want to hang around when they see the police. They usually just take off. We've all seen it. It's that mob mentality. When there's a lot of the kids hanging out in groups, I've gotten out of the police car and try to engage and talk to them. And then you have a few of them that want to be smart Alex and say obscene and different things. And then everyone kind of jumps on the bandwagon. So I have done it here and there. And it just, for the people that are in the park that I've actually hung out with and haven't played basketball with them yet, or baseball, but I've actually hung out in the park and talked with them. Those are usually not the problem kids. The problem kids are the ones that are always being super rude, discourteous, cussing. They forgive me, but they're like F12, all cops are bad, and they're just jumping on whatever mob, and they all kind of working in concert together within the groups. Those are the kids that don't want to talk and don't want to. They want to have the attitude and think they're above and beyond everything. the kids that I have spoken to in the park, they're the regular normal kids hanging around. But the problematic ones, I have tried to engage, and they just don't want to have anything of it. But yeah, that is something that I know YMCA, and there's a couple of community members that were throwing around the idea of trying to do something community oriented for kids, give them something to do rather than just hanging around and loitering in the park and stuff. So I know that is a conversation that we will probably start a little bit more aggressively and continue with. But no, that's a good point to bring up. Thank you.
Eric B.
Eric B, you're next.
Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to say how much we appreciate you coming to the community and having a dialogue about this. I mean, obviously, it's kind of long overdue, and we know that you guys are slammed and that you're doing your best on your side of the line. So just really appreciate it. I just want to know, as a clarification, if the parents of one of these kids is legally separated or divorced, are both parents notified? Because in one instance, it is consistently the mother, and they are divorced, and I'm not, as far as I understand, the father has not been notified. Is that, what's the legality, or how does LAPD?
So we only notify the primary guardian. We don't go through like a family. We don't notify everybody in the family. We only notify the primary caregiver guardian of the individual.
Right, but so if it's both parents divorced, you would notify both parents?
If they're listed as like an to be honest, no, we wouldn't notify both. We'd only notify the primary. If they're whoever the school, if we're contacting the juvenile at school, if we're contacting the juvenile in the field for its curfew, whatever, we ask to speak to their parents. So whatever parent info they give us, and we verify that they are a parent, then that's who we speak to. But we don't speak to everybody, all family members. We do not.
Right, I mean, no one's asking you to speak to all. I just,
Yeah.
so if the school
Yeah.
has two guardians, then if the
Yeah, they're
school has
divorced, we
two
speak to
guardians, then you would respond to two guardians.
Yeah, we only speak to one.
Only one, okay. Pali had indicated to us that backpack checks are obviously, can only be conducted with probable cause. Those were their words. And we said, oh, well, here you go, XYZ, is that probable cause? And Pali stated probable cause has to be initiated by LAPD to the school. Is that correct? And if so, have you done that?
No, I have not done that, and I am not aware of that as a policy that we have to inform the school. That
Okay.
I'm not aware of it. Whether
All right, this was told to a number of us in February.
Yeah, so I'm not aware of it. I don't know if our juvenile detectives, if that's something that they may be aware of, or if it's school PD that initiates that. But that, to me, that's new to me. I'm not aware of that, so I can't answer that question. That true or not, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
What recourses, I mean, in terms of civil suits, would you suggest that to be a good avenue, since a lot of us in the community are feeling a little bit hands tied on this, since we know a number of the perpetrators? Is that something you would suggest?
Yeah, well, that's up to you. I don't know. Are you referring to civil litigation against the school or individual?
No, against the number of individuals that have been identified and filmed on multiple photos and videotapes.
Yeah, so yeah, that ultimately anybody's entitled to, in a civil court, anybody's entitled to start litigation in that way. I don't have an answer to say yes or no. That's up to the individual. If you feel if it rises to that level where you need to engage in civil.
But would it be helpful, for example, to LAPD if multiple?
Yeah, it wouldn't help us, because civil litigation is exactly what that is. Civil. It has nothing to do with the criminal side.
But I mean,
Right.
it could, as something that the parents might pay a little bit more attention to what's going on with their kids. If they're facing some civil litigation from a group of parents who have this video of them committing these acts, because obviously you'd have to sue the parents. You wouldn't sue the juvenile.
Correct.
Down the road, it'd be a long process, but I don't want to say it wouldn't help us. I mean, I think down the road, if it stopped the behavior, even just by filing some type of lawsuit, then it could help us. Yes.
Okay, and then I know you have other people on. I just have one thing, and I'm trying to phrase this diplomatically because again, like super appreciate the position you're in. We have found that officers are minimizing the events in the community to other members in the community. And again, obviously, you can only talk about what has been proven or what you're, there's a lot of extra chatter that, but just even in terms of police reports filed and all of that, the officers that are spoken to on the street are very much minimizing the events. So a lot of people are not aware or said, oh no, that we heard something else. And that's a bit puzzling because I would imagine that, it would help the community for everyone to be aware of what's going on.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard me speak at like the Palisades Community Council or even in my crime updates that I send out, obviously social media platforms, it's like a double-edged sword. Sometimes you get very good information that is helpful. Sometimes you get information that's not really vetted, or sometimes it's a lot of hearsay. So
Right.
what I've been telling everybody is if you have a specific question, reach out to me directly. If it's something like, oh, I heard this happened, or I heard this happened, and you want to know, and if I have any information about it, I can reply. So I tell everybody in the community, because that's the last thing that I want is the rumor mill to start snowballing, get bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where I wouldn't say it's blown up out of proportion, but it's still, no matter how big or small the problem is, it's still a problem. I understand that, but sometimes things get taken out of context and things are the information is not 100% accurate. So I tell everybody, reach out to me directly. And if you have a question or a concern about something, and if I know about it or I'm aware of it, I will do my due diligence and reply with the information that I have that at least I'm able to dispel. And going on that, thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Going on that, I know that through social media, there was a lot of discussions about they're putting out addresses of some of these kids or family members. Even if you do know the families and you know the kids involved and you know their addresses and their phone numbers and their birth date, their social security number, all that stuff, that's not something that I believe should be pushed out onto social media platforms.
No, I agree.
Things get taken out of context a lot, and recently I had somebody reach out to me, a resident in the area, saying that their information was being dispelled out there, and they had nothing to do with the individuals or the families involved, but their information or their family's information was getting spread out all over social media. So I implore everybody, as much as you may know information or have information of detailed personal information, please do not share that on social media, because there could be a lot of negative backlash that can happen, or even to the worst that I would think of is some sort of retaliation of violence when these people have no idea or involved at all. So please do not allow personal information with any of the individuals or families or what we believe to be the individuals or families, just because it could go sideways very easily. It's like that telephone game. Communication, once it starts reaching to a certain level, now people start, we'll say, not assuming, but putting their own spin on things, and that has happened already. So thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that.
No, yeah, I mean, obviously, I would hope that all of us agree with you on that.
We're gonna move on to the next one because we have another event that's happening in West LA that we're gonna need officers on deck soon. So we're gonna do these last two questions. I have Courtney Wynham and Amanda next, and then that's gonna be it. Thank you, Eric. We appreciate your comments and concerns. Courtney Wynham, you're up if you can unmute.
She has to do the meeting already.
Yeah, Courtney, if you're on, we allowed access for you to unmute yourself. So if you're able to, if not, all right, we're gonna go to Amanda next. Amanda, if you can, you're unmuted.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Great. I would love to give some of my time to Miriam Czar, if that's okay. I just know she's very active in the community and might have something important to offer. all I wanted to offer is that there are now 10 pages of people here on this Zoom who are interested in this. And I'd like to know the best way that we can stay in communication with each other. It seems like as soon as this Zoom ends, we will now not be able to contact one another. And I think it's really important that we stay organized. So is that the Pacific Palisades Community Council? Should we be joining your mailing list? Maybe this is a question for Kimberly Bloom. What can we do so that those of us on this call who are interested in propelling forward a solution, or at least staying informed, can stay in contact with each other? And I'd love it if Miriam could speak next.
Yeah, Miriam, we'll throw Miriam on there next. Yes, the Palisades Community Council is what I believe to be the best source of kind of dispelling some information. Just because I'm on that meeting quite often. And there's a lot of, they talk about what's going on in the Palisades. So I do encourage everybody, if they're not already involved in the Pacific Palisades Community Council, to join that, because there is a lot of information going on and what's happening in the community, as well as my crime update. My Sergeant Alpert is going to put my serial number, my email address in the chat right now. Every week, every other week, I send out a crime update to the Palisades community of what's going on. So that way you can kind of see our part 1 crimes, which when you see the update, you'll see the list of the crimes that we post out there. So he's going to put my email in the chat. Please email me if you're not already on my crime update email list. Please email me and I will add you immediately. But yes, I agree, Amanda, that communication in the community is key. And I think a good format for that as of right now would be the Palisades Community Council. So thank you, Amanda. We'll go with Miriam Czar really quick. She's good. All right, you can unmute now, Miriam, if you're.
Thank you. I was trying to unmute. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Brian, for giving me the time and for setting up the meeting. So a couple of things I wanted to clarify. First of all, the Pacific Palisades Community Council meets every 2nd and 4th Thursday of the month. So sometimes, or usually, that turns out to be every 2 weeks, but it is, if you look at the calendar, every 2nd and 4th Thursday of the month. The meeting link is consistent every time we meet, and you can pick it up from either our newsletters or you can go on our website and grab it there. To answer Karen Ridgely's question, yes, Brian, if you send me a recording of this meeting, I will post it to our website gladly. And just so everyone knows, we have a YouTube site. The Pacific Palisades Community Council has a YouTube site that's available on our website too, and you can see some of the previous conversations we've had with LAPD on everything and also surrounding park issues. So I want to pick up on what Councilmember Park said. I specifically, and some of the other people on my executive committee, have been in constant touch with the council office and with the Department of Recreation and Parks, talking about cameras at the park, as well as foot patrols. So we now have a quote for foot patrols. We've learned from Brian that people come out, youth violence, as if I can term it that, or youth shenanigans, usually comes out on the weekend nights. So we're told Friday and Saturday nights. So we asked Recreation and Parks how we'd be able to get a private foot patrol into the park. They said that we would have to hire one of their vendors, their approved vendors. So we asked them to go ahead and get us a quote. They've gotten that quote. I've talked to Brian. Brian has told me that both cameras and foot patrols would be helpful. So we will bring that to the community council. It's 8 hours a day for 2 hours. We're also trying to get those cameras up on existing buildings using existing electric infrastructure. So not what Recreation and Parks had suggested, which was a $500,000 upgrade, but just, do with what we have. I'm told cameras would also be helpful, but these all have a cost. So to answer everyone's question about how do we pool our money so that the community can potentially address some of these issues, A, we would have to work with Recreation and Parks and the council office to get some sort of right of entry. And B, we'd have to raise money. 2 people in the community have already paid in to what we, loosely call a pot for this. The organization that is taking these donations, and Nina, I will gladly talk to you about what you guys did before, but there is a local community organization that is taking the money and sort of safekeeping it for us until we have a way to spend it. I will send out some information as to who that organization is, but it's the same organization that enabled the Field of Dreams, which was similarly something that was done on RAP property, and it was done with private Palisades money. It's called Your Park Community Center Committee, PCCC. And they've been willing to collect money for us. So this is all a lot of information for me to want to throw out at this meeting. I know time is short, but yes, if everyone wants to begin to participate with the Pacific Palisades Community Council meetings, I think we'll begin to talk about these things in April and May and try to pin down a strategy that we can raise money for and implement with the help of the council office, of course. And I'm happy to take any questions. That was it for me.
All right, thank you, Miriam, appreciate it.
Miriam, good to see you.
All right, we're gonna do the last
Thank you,
question because the captain's got to go to an event right now, or a protest that's happening here in West LA. Y'all gotta go soon. Jennifer is our last one, and then I'll let the captain close it out. And you have my email, so you can email me with any more questions that I may be able to filter and answer. But Jennifer, you're the last one. Jennifer, can you hear me?
Hi, thank you so much for hosting this tonight. We appreciate it. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for hosting this tonight. As you know, we've been taking a lot of videos of what's been going on in the park. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to us like there is much LAPD can do based on the footage, even when we've sent in license plates and faces. So my concern is there's going to be a huge investment in cameras. These kids pull up their hoodies. We've watched them do it. We've watched them race into the park night after night on e-bikes. They throw the explosives, they zoom away. I don't know what the camera system is going to achieve here. I think we should be looking at other solutions that are more practical. Who is going to be monitoring cameras? There's going to be hundreds of hours of footage. Why aren't we talking about things like gates to these parks at night, so that this park has become the epicenter of criminal activity in this neighborhood? It's where the kids zoom in and out of e-bikes. They gather there. There's drag racing. You guys know this. I've sent you the videos. Why are we talking about a camera system? We have a camera system. You know, even when the faces are shown, LAPD tells us there's really nothing you can do. The hands are tied. So I just feel like we need to have a conversation about what are realistic solutions. If you do have footage that shows the faces, what are you actually able to do about it? If there's not much you can do without being there in person, then let's channel our funds and our energy towards, because we've been seeing video footage for 2 years and the problem's only getting worse. Thanks so much for your time.
Sure. Thank you, Jennifer. So the videos that you have been sending me, the ones with the license plates of the cars that were doing like the donuts and the burnout, I actually went to their houses and spoke to either the registered owner, because I couldn't verify who the driver was. Even though you sent me the picture of the kid in the driver's seat, they weren't there at the time when I went to the house. But I have gone to the house and spoken to the registered owners or the family members and let them know. And I haven't seen any video, and maybe there hasn't. I haven't seen it or made aware of it. But I know that car has not been in the area doing the same thing again. The videos where we see the kids, like I mentioned earlier in the video in the meeting, we need to identify the actual individual kid that's lighting the firework. Once we're able to do that, then now we might be able to do some enforcement, but at least I go to the schools and say, hey, who is this kid? And I can get the parent information, and then I can go make a house call to the parents, like I did with the vehicles with the license plate that you sent me. So I apologize I didn't tell you that I did that, but like I said, a lot of this stuff is involving the minors. So we're limited on what information we're allowed to dispel and shell out to the community, because we don't want the rumor mill of, oh, did you hear about this person doing this? Did you hear about this person getting arrested, when that didn't really happen? So I do appreciate the videos and everything that you have been sending. It's not being unnoticed, but enforcement wise, the videos that we have, if we're not seeing the individual kid lighting the firework, then it's just more documenting what happened, but there's very little follow-up that we can do. And yes, a topic of discussion would be better securing the park. That is something that I know Miriam and the RAP board has maybe, I don't know if they discussed it, but I know I did talk to Miriam about that. You would have to do the gates would definitely prevent the vehicles from going in. But if you notice, a lot of the gates in the area, the kids, if they really want to get in, they'll just jump over the gate and hang out in the park. and then the cars were not able to get in there. So it depends on what we're trying to lock out or what we're trying to limit going in. But gates are definitely a good consideration to talk about which ones might be more effective. So thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. All right, we gotta go. I'm gonna let the captain close it out real quick. Like I said, if you have any questions or anything we did not cover or answer, please email me directly. I know my sergeant put in my email in the chat. I'll say it really quick if you don't have chat going, if you're on your phone. My email address is 37430@lapd.online. Once again, that's 37430@lapd.online. Thank you guys for attending. Let the captain close it out.
No, I just want to reiterate what Brian said. Thank you all for attending this meeting. It's very encouraging to see what kind of turnout we have here and how much you care about the community. We want to see, we want to keep it safe for you. I have dedicated a lot of discretionary overtime to a lot of these details for Brian to use, for our motor officers to use, for our undercover officers to use. And unfortunately, it's always hit or miss when we have them out there, whether they can catch someone in the act of doing some of these criminal acts or not. We're going to keep trying. We're going to keep working with you guys. We appreciate the videos you send. We appreciate the information you send. Like everyone else, our resources are stretched pretty thin, but we'll try to do the best we can to try to solve these problems. I'd like to thank Detective Malcott for joining us. He's our department expert here at West LA on what goes on with juvenile crime. So thank you, Justin. I'd like to thank Scott Alpert also for answering all the questions that you guys sent online, and Jeff Nuttall, who's our camera guy tonight. Hopefully this has been beneficial to some of you. Hopefully we got something out of it, but thank you for your partnership and look forward to trying to solve these problems as we move into the future. So have a great night and be safe.
Thank you.